This is the Mooncast. Hey bro, I'm just trolling is something that will not just challenge your perspective, but also touch your heart and soul. It's a book that defies convention, blending art and literature into a thought-provoking masterpiece. A reflective piece of provocative art that tackles societal constructs from angles you've never considered. Hey bro, I'm just trolling delves into the very essence of our existence. It questions the technology that surrounds us, challenges our notions of beauty, stares unflinchingly into the eyes of death, and questions the boundaries of freedom. It scrutinized the educational system that molds our very future. This book is a journey, an exploration of shared human experience, and it's a work of art that refuses to be confined by tradition. It's a canvas painted with words, a melody of thought, and a testament to the power of creativity in a world dominated by algorithms and data. Visit moonboycapitalventures.com and get your hands on Hey Bro, I'm Just Trolling today. It's not just a book, it's a movement. Now let's jump back into the show. Welcome to the Mooncast. So today we're going to be talking about the foundations of cybersecurity, right? So there's 8 sort of domains within cybersecurity, and this is called the Certified Information Systems Security Professional Security Domains, right? Or the CISSP, right? And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about is about one of the biggest job descriptions within cybersecurity that a lot of people are trying to get in for entry-level specialists, which is the security analyst job description, right? And what that entails is you're protecting computer and network systems, right? And you're installing prevention software and you're conducting periodic security audits, right? So let me break that down, right? So protecting computer and network systems, what does that entail? That entails monitoring, right? Using different SIEM tools, which is the System Information Event Management tools, right? Like Splunk or Chronicle. And you're basically these tools allow you to be able to look at logs of data and put it all into a dashboard so you can seamlessly scroll through the data and be able to detect whenever there's a potential attack vector, right? And also when it talks about installing prevention software, right? We're talking about IDS, which is intrusion detection systems, right? And then also IPS, which is intrusion protection systems, right? So detection systems actually detect the data packets as they're going through to the IP, right? To the destination IP, right? And if there's anything that's a little bit sketchy, they'll detect it and they won't allow that IP to be able to go through the firewall to then get to your destination IP, right? Whereas IPS, right, which is intrusion protection systems, sort of kind of monitor if there is something that's a little bit sketchy. They'll just alarm you that something sketchy or sketchy data packet just basically got through the firewall, and then you would have to decide for yourself if that's something that you want to open or something that you don't want to open, right? And so let me try to break down what cybersecurity is, right? So cybersecurity is basically a practice of ensuring confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information by protecting networks, devices, people, and data from unauthorized access or criminal exploitation, right? And that's basically what it is in a nutshell, right? And so you basically, what I like to call it and how I like to break it down seamlessly so people can understand it is you're a glorified digital security guard, right? That's the best way to break it down. Obviously, you need a lot of technical expertise in things of this nature, but to simplify it for you to understand, imagine a security guard but in the digital space. You are monitoring the entire asset for that specific company, right? And you're usually doing it with a team, right, of security guards within this instance, but digitally, right? So you're stopping the digital implementation of this, right, of this physical implementation of a security guard. and that's why it's cybersecurity, right? And so moving on, we can talk a little bit about the compliance, right? So compliance is like a process of adhering to internal standards and external regulations, and enables organizations to avoid fines and security breaches, right? So that's part of the things that you could be doing, is creating these security frameworks in cybersecurity, right? And again, this is from stuff that I'm just learning and understanding, right? Because I'm obviously haven't worked in the field yet, but this is basically all the things that basically I'm learning as I'm going. And so the compliance could be, sort of these standards, right, that are created, these frameworks that basically these organizations, these cybersecurity organizations that they create, and you kind of have to follow them based off of your jurisdiction, because every jurisdiction is different. Some of them, they have a low level of compliance in regards to consumer protection laws, such as like their data and their privacy. Some frameworks maybe require you every 3 to 4 months to delete all of the consumer data that's there, or whatever the case may be, right? So that's basically the compliance aspects of it, right? And so when we talk about security frameworks, we talk about they're like guidelines, right? Like I said, you use for building plans to help mitigate risk and threats to data and privacy, right? And that's the entire point of the security framework, right? And there's also security controls, and those are sort of safeguards and designed to reduce specific security risk. They are used with, security frameworks to establish a strong security posture, right? And you're probably wondering what a security posture is, right? So security posture is an organization's ability to manage its defense of critical assets and data, and react to change, right? A strong security posture leads to lower risk for the organization, right? So basically, again, it's the ability to manage its defense of critical assets, right? So the stronger your defense, the stronger your posture. The same as when you're standing up and you're just walking around. The higher your head is held high, the better your posture will be, and the better your overall well-being as a person in regards to your back not getting messed up over the course of time. So in this case, in the security posture, what you're doing is better your defense will be, the less that your organization will be messed up over that course of time, right? And that's the best way to kind of describe the differences and nuances between them. And yeah, so this basically, so when we talk about like a threat actor, right? So we're talking about a malicious actor. It can be like any person or a group who presents a security risk, right? This risk can relate to computers, it can relate to applications, networks, and data, right? And so that's basically what a threat actor is, right? Someone that's really trying to do something harmful for probably more than likely financial gain, or disgruntled employees, or even on a larger scale, macro scale, governments, right? They'll try to do cybersecurity attacks to mess up another government's elections, or to mess up another government's systems, right? So they can have strategic advantage over that government, right? And so internal threats, those can be a current or former employee, an external vendor, or it's kind of like I said, or a trusted partner who poses a risk, right? And at times an internal threat is accidental, right? For example, an employee who accidentally clicks on a malicious email link would be considered an accidental threat. Other times, the internal threat actor intentionally engages in risk activities such as unauthorized data access, right? And this is again why you have to have these frameworks and these guidelines in place for employees to understand what is good security practices and what is not security practices for your company ethos and how your company kind of operates, right? And so when you talk about the network security, right? So network security is it's sort of the practice of keeping an organization's network infrastructure sector or secure from unauthorized access, right? And this includes, data, services, systems, and devices that are stored in a organization's network, right? So any of these things right here is network security, right? So cloud security is a little bit nuanced, right? It's the process of ensuring the assets stored in the cloud are properly configured or set up correctly, and access to those assets is limited to authorized users, right? The cloud is a network made up of collection of servers or computers that store resources and data in remote physical locations known as data centers that can be accessed via the internet, right? So the cloud security is a growing subfield of cybersecurity that specifically focuses on protection of data, applications, and infrastructure in the cloud. This one I think is super important because I think cloud is a niche that I would like to get into mainly within cybersecurity, just because of the fact that the cloud infrastructure is going to continue to scale because there's more and more people getting on the internet. Now I think there's roughly around, let's just update the data, because I brought this point up previous podcast too as well, but the data now suggests around 5 billion people are on the internet, and actually by 2030 there's going to be around 90% of people on the internet. So how many more e-commerce stores are going to be launched? So how much cloud infrastructure is going to be then needed for all of the e-commerce stores that are being launched, right? So these are things you need to keep in mind. So, the AWS, the Microsoft Azure's, the Google Cloud, all these different cloud service providers, right? CSPs, right? They're going to need cybersecurity specialists even more and more to be able to secure the scalability of those networks, right? Over that course of time. And so I think this is a growing field, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger. And there's going to be an increase in demand with cybersecurity specialists as more hackers continue to hack these systems and find different ways through phishing, social engineering, malware, and all kinds of different nuanced ways to hack, right? So, programming, right? So programming is a process that can be used to create a specific set of instructions for a computer to execute task. So tasks can include automation of repetitive tasks, reviewing web traffic, alerting suspicious activity, and so on and so forth, right? But you won't be necessarily programming in cybersecurity, but I think it is important to learn a little bit of code. I'm going to be taking, after I finish this Google course that I'm taking for cybersecurity, I'm going to be taking a course on Python, right? And simultaneously, I'm actually taking a smart contract course too as well, which I'll be taking in conjunction with that, and a Web3 course. Like I'm taking multiple different coding courses within the next 6 months or so to just scale my knowledge and my skills, right? Upskill myself, so I'm more prepared and to understand how these languages and stuff works. And maybe I can build my own project too as well. But I think it's important to learn a little bit of code. So, in case there might come a time when you want to build something, and either you're going to have to learn the skill yourself, or you're going to have to pay someone to do it for you. And paying someone to do it for you usually comes at a headache. A lot of people, they're actually not skilled with it. I would say like 90 to 99% of coders are not skilled, or they're only skilled at one specific thing, maybe even a sub niche within the thing, right? Or they're just front-end developers or just back-end developers, not really all full-stack developers, so they can't build an entire project themselves. Yeah, so this is just things to keep in mind. And, there's transferable skills too as well that come in play when you're trying to get in the cybersecurity field. So if you have some life experiences, you can become a cybersecurity, specialist. It's not impossible, right? Anybody can do it. And, you just need really good communication skills, for instance, problem solving, time management skills, growth mindset skills, and things of this nature, right? Those are like the soft skills that you need, because you need to, for instance, with communication, right? You need to be able to communicate to then your team and then maybe to your shareholders about what specifically happened within the systems and why they were hacked. You need to be able to explain this to them. Why was it hacked? How can it be resolved? You're going to have to write reports. You're going to need to have good writing and technical writing skills, right? These are things that, are soft skills that you can build if you haven't built them already, if you're looking to get into the field of cybersecurity, right? And so problem solving, right? Problem solving is also important too as well. So, that's one of your main things in cybersecurity analysts, to be proactive and identify and solve problems, right? And you can do this by recognizing attack patterns and then determining the most efficient solution to minimize the risk, right? And don't be afraid to take risk and try new things, and also understand that it's rare to find a perfect solution to a problem. You'll likely need to compromise at some point, right? And that's basically, the problem solving aspect of it. And like I said, you're usually going to be working with a team. If you're going to be working as an independent contractor or a 9-to-5er, what I plan to do is probably go in first as an independent contractor, and then eventually start to add it as a vertical with integration within my business over that course of time. But everyone has their own different strategies. And I also think it's important perhaps to, like I said, build maybe a project, showcase your technical expertise, and have maybe a website if you can, maybe start writing blogs, or what I'm doing, I'm doing podcasts, right? Just to showcase that your level of competency and your level of interest within the industry, and showcase that you're able to build things, and you're able to learn, you're adjustable, your communication skills, all these things play out when you start doing other things outside of what the norm. Because right now there's a lot of people that are getting into these boot camps, and a lot of these boot camps are getting oversubscribed currently. So I think it's important to try to figure out a way to stand out when you're trying to secure yourself in employment, a retainer or whatever it is, right? So yeah, just showcase your level of competency is the main thing, right? And when we talk about time management and growth mindset, these are just common, obvious things. You should basically have good time management and have a heightened sense of urgency in prioritizing tasks appropriately, right? And it's essential, in this type of field. Effective time management will help you minimize potential damage and risk to critical assets and data, right? So growth mindset is also important. Obviously, you need to stay curious, right? So me, I'm a very curious person. So I just keep going down a rabbit hole that leads to another rabbit hole that leads to another rabbit hole. And this is why I've gotten to where I'm at right now in regards to my level of technical understanding, which isn't even as high as I would like it to be, because I'm still now just getting into, past the computer literacy part, but getting more into like how to, properly run Linux, and to, be able to build their own project by myself and stuff like this. So this is very important for me moving forward, is to continue to stay curious, continue to evolve, and continue to just work and attack things with a high level of motivation, which I always do, right? Because I'm actually super interested in these things. It's not just something, if you're just looking to get into industries to make money, people are going to see right through that, and you're not going to like it, and you're going to be miserable. So I think you should get into things out of curiosity, and because you actually want to do them, or you actually want to help people, right? This is just my thing. I have a passion for podcasting. This is why I love to talk, and this is why I like podcasting, because it gives me that ability to express myself as much as I possibly can without being interrupted, and also provide as much value as I possibly can. I love educating people. I love teaching. I love also sharing my journey to people. So podcasting is a great space and thing for me. It's my niche. So, and it's one of my passions. And so the technical skills that you may or may not need, it depends on what you're looking to do in cybersecurity. That's another thing. You need to figure out what you want to do. There's so many different sub niches and different verticals within cybersecurity, right? Within the horizontal layer of cybersecurity, right? So you got cloud security, you got software, security, you have application security, you have different types of security, right? You have a smart contract security, right? That's needed. You have network and system security. You have security frameworks. You have being a security operation center analyst, where you're not really dealing with code and things of this nature. So there's different types of security analysts and different job descriptions, right, for each individual one. So you need to figure out what your niche is. And there's also niches within that, right? Like for instance, with cloud, are you going to be specializing in just Google? Are you going to specialize in Microsoft Azure? Are you going to specialize in AWS? So you need to figure out which specialization you want to take, and just go ahead and attack that specific niche. Because I think when you try to branch out or be too broad in general, it's going to be harder for you to get, to work with the company, right? So the programming languages. So with programming languages, by understanding how to use programming languages, cybersecurity analysts can automate tasks that would otherwise be very time consuming, right? Examples of tasks that programming can be used for include searching data to identify potential threats, or organizing and analyzing information to identify patterns related to security issues, right? Then you also have the security information and event management tools, or SIEM tools, which I've already previously stated, right? And these are the ones that collect and analyze log data, right? Or records of events such as unusual login behavior, right? And support analyst abilities to monitor critical activities in an organization. This helps cybersecurity professionals identify and analyze potential security threats, risk, and vulnerabilities more efficiently, right? And of course, I've already mentioned then the IDS, the intrusion detection systems, right? Which is things that you'll be working with potentially as a cybersecurity analyst, and then also the incident reports too as well, which I mentioned, things you're going to be able to write reports, maybe leveraging Nano on Linux. So you're going to need to know how to do that, or you may be doing it on an actual file, using a GUI, a graphic user interface, right? As opposed to a CLI, right? The command line interface, right? Which is things that you'll learn as you continue to get your skills built up, right? So very interesting stuff for me, per se. And yeah, you may be working with computer security incident response teams, right? Or CSIRTs, right? Is what they kind of call them, right? And so when you look at the evolution of cybersecurity, right, you have phishing, which is, the use of digital communications to trick people into revealing sensitive data or deploying malicious software, right? Some of the most common types of phishing attacks today include like business email compromise, right? It's what's when a threat actor sends an email message that seems to be from a known source, right? To make a seemingly legitimate request for information in order to obtain a financial advantage, right? And then you have the spear phishing, right? And spear phishing is basically a malicious email attack that targets a specific user or group of users, right? The email seems to originate from a trusted source, right? And that's basically spear phishing. Then you have whaling, which is another form of phishing, right? It's a form of spear phishing, right? And this is when threat actors target company executives to gain access to sensitive data, because they know that the executives typically are the ones that have a higher level of security clearance. And so usually cybersecurity analysts will build cybersecurity architecture for a business to where they subnet the exposure of the business, right? And the connectivity. So they maybe put a blockade or a firewall in between a subsection. So maybe marketing has their section, and there's a firewall between marketing and then to the main hub. And then there's a firewall between the subnet of, let's say, business operations, right? And the main hub, the main network hub, right? And so sometimes they'll just make it into sections like that to make it even harder for the hacker to penetrate, because there's different levels of security needed to be able to penetrate different subsections or subnets of the entire network infrastructure of a business, right? And so when you look at vishing, right? So vishing is the exploitation of electronic voice communication to obtain sensitive information or to impersonate a known source, right? And then there's smishing too as well, the use of text messages to trick users in order to obtain sensitive information or to impersonate a known source, right? So those are all the different forms of phishing, right? And that's one of the ways in which the threat actor will try to hack systems, right? Is through phishing scams, right? Another way they do it is through malware, right? And so malware is a software designed to harm devices or networks. There are many types of malware. The primary purpose of malware is to obtain money, or in some cases, an intelligent advantage that can be, sort of leveraged against a person, organization, or a territory, right? Some of the most common types of malware attacks today, they include, things like viruses, right? So virus is a malicious code written to interfere with computer operations and cause damage to data and software, right? A virus needs to be initiated by a user, right? Who transmit the virus via a malicious attachment or file download. When someone opens the malicious attachment or download, the virus hides itself in other files in the now infected system. When the infected system are open, right, or the infected files are open, it allows the virus to insert its own code to damage and or destroy data in the systems, right? So worms, right, malware that can duplicate and spread itself across systems on its own. In contrast to a virus, worms does not need to be downloaded by a user, right? Instead, it self-replicates and spreads from an already infected computer to other devices on the same network, right? When we go to ransomware, so ransomware is a malicious attack where threat actors encrypt organizations' data and demand payment to restore access. And then obviously you have then spyware too as well, which is malware that is used to gather and sell information without consent. Spyware can be used to access devices. This allows threat actors to collect personal data such as private emails, text, voice, and image recordings and locations, right? And so while both malware and viruses are malicious software, malware is overarching category that includes various types of malicious software, including viruses, right? And viruses are a specific subset of malware, right? So if you're trying to figure out what the difference is, and they rely on attaching themselves to legitimate files or programs to spread and cause harm, right? Other forms of malware, like we previously said, include worms, trojans, ransomware, blah blah blah, and so on, right? So moving on to another type of way in which threat actors hack into systems, social engineering, right? It's a manipulation technique that exploits human error to gain private information, access, or valuables, right? Human error is usually a result of trusting someone without question. It's the mission of a threat actor acting as a social engineer to create an environment of a false trust and lies to exploit as many people as possible. Some of the most common types of social engineering attacks today, right? Those include social media phishing, right? A threat actor collects detailed information about their target from social media sites, then they initiate an attack, right? And so that's how they do it with the social media phishing, through some form of social engineering. And they have watering hole attacks, right? Which is when a threat actor attacks a website frequently visiting by a specific group of location. It's when a threat actor attacks a website frequently visited by a specific group of users. I don't know why I said locations. But anyways, moving on, you have USB baiting, which is a threat actor then strategically leaves a malware USB stick for an employee to find and install to unknowingly infect a network, right? And then you also have physical social engineering, right? It's when a threat actor impersonates an employee, customer, or vendor to obtain unauthorized access to a physical location, right? And so, you also have then like social engineering principles too as well. It's also super incredibly effective. It's because people are generally trusting and conditioned to respect authority, right? And the number of social engineering attacks it's increasing with every new social media application that allows public access to people's data, right? Although sharing personal data such as your location or photos can be convenient, it's also a risk. And so some of the reasons why social engineering attacks are effective, the authority, right? So threat actors, they impersonate individuals with power, right? This is because people in general have, been conditioned to respect and follow authority or authority figures, right? So it's very easy to imitate an authority figure, and people will just trust it because they think it's an authority figure, but they didn't fact check it. They don't know for sure if it is or not, right? Intimidation tactics is something that they also use too as well, like bullying tactics, persuasion tactics, and things of this nature, right? They also use consensus and social proof, right? So because people sometimes do things they believe many others are doing, threat actors use others' trust, right? They basically try to pretend that they are legitimate, right? For example, a threat actor might try to gain access to private data by telling an employee that other people at the company have given them access to that data in the past, right? And then you also have scarcity too as well. A tactic used basically to imply that goods and services are limited supply. They also use familiarity, which is they establish a fake emotional connection with users that can be exploited too as well. And then they also use, obviously the trust, and then urgency, right? They make it seem like this needs to be quickly done and without questioning, And actually, I got scammed like this too as well once before on a phone call because I got scammed, guys. I know, and it ended up working, and I ended up losing some money, because they did it through a phone call, and they made it seem super legit, and they made it seem super urgent, and I fell for it, right? So this is why, again, another reason why I'm so adamant about cybersecurity is because this can happen to anybody. Even people who are seasoned get got. Mark Cuban just got hacked recently. I think Vitalik Buterin got hacked too as well. So it doesn't really matter how skilled or how technical someone is. It can happen to anyone. This is why it's really important to create and establish a lot of defense mechanisms against your assets, right? Like it's the same even with crypto, because I tell people all the time that it's super important to, if you're going to have, like, let's say, I even would say even $5,000 or more in crypto, you should probably secure those assets yourself, and you should not secure them in a software wallet because malicious malware might get into your computer and they may be able to still hack you. What you really want to do is get a hardware wallet where you have a two-factor authentication, right? So no one can access those funds even if they hack into your computer unless they have your physical device to authenticate and sign with the private key, right? And so that's why I like, two-factor authentication, and getting like a ledger or a Trezor or cold card, whatever kind of authentication that you need. But yeah, it's very important to protect yourself as much as possible, especially if you have a lot of assets, especially if you're a big business, because you're talking like tens of millions of dollars, that you have in assets, or tens of millions of dollars worth of information, right? Because the information is what's really valuable too as well. Someone can steal your data and fork your business somewhere else. It could be quite damaging, for you over time, or just sell that one specific intellectual property that they need to be able to, replicate the business, and they can sell it to other businesses as well so they can replicate it. It's very, very important to protect it as much as possible, right? The internet is really the wild, wild west. And I think it's something that people don't really realize is that the internet is my business partner just showed me how easy it is for hackers to, like, he literally in 10 minutes copied an exact website, right? Control U. And then he got the Control U basically gives you the entire code layout for the front end of a website, right? Took the front end, copied it, put it into, a file, then took that file, put it onto a server, and then had the website basically already online. It's basically the same exact website and change the URL slightly, right? And all you need to do is encode in the backend to add in to secure cookies. So when people, type in their username and password, that cookie gets secured, and now you have their username and password. And now you can leverage that to log into their whatever it is that website is about, right? Now you have the username and password, And so this is, again, and he did it in 10 minutes. So, and also with the emergence of Chat GPT, right? That's another thing. Chat GPT and AI allows you to be a novice at hacking and still be able to hack systems, because you can just ask the AI what to do, how to hack the system. You can even ask it to write you malicious code, and it'll do it for you, or tell you to write code to do a specific action for you, and it'll just write it. You just need to copy it and paste it, attach it to a file, and now you have malware, right? And so this is how easy it is for hackers to hack. They're just, a lot of them are novices. There was even one hack that happened in crypto. This is how novice a lot of them are, where the guy hacked into the guy's wallet, but he didn't have enough gas to move the money, to move the funds in time. This is how novice some of these hackers are, right? So they're not, some of them, they don't even have a clear-cut plan of how they're going to do what they need to do after the fact that they've hacked into something, right? So just keep that in mind, right? And yeah, so firewall, again, is super important, because it's like, device, again, like I said, it basically monitors incoming and ongoing traffic, right? Super important for especially big business and networks, to see what packets are coming in and out, and to then monitor if there's kind of irregularities, with certain packets, that you can even manually do manual inputs of the firewall to suit your business needs, right? Say, for instance, you only want port 25, which is the email port for data packets to come in through your firewall. You can do that too as well. So you can just make things even more specialized, for your specific business. So you only have specific types of packets coming in and out of your network, right? And so the 8 domains, right, that I wanted to cover in regards to the CISSP, right? Again, stands for the Certified Information Systems Security Professional, right? And these 8 domains are basically like security and risk management is the first one, right? So this is like a domain that covers fundamental principles of security risk management and governance. It involves understanding and managing security policies, procedures, and compliance efforts to protect an organization's assets. You also have asset security. Asset security focuses on safeguarding valuable information assets, such as data, systems, and infrastructure. It includes identifying, classifying, and protecting these assets from unauthorized access or damage, right? And then you also have security architecture and engineering, right? Which is this domain. It more deals with like the design and architecture of security or secure systems and networks. It involves creating secure systems, implementing security controls, and ensuring that security is integrated into the development process, right? And then you also have communication and network security, right? And this one deals with securing data as it travels across networks and communication channels. It includes encryption, access control, and network defense mechanisms. Then you have identity and access management, right? Which is also a big one, a big niche right now too as well, which involves managing, controlling user access to systems and data. It encompasses user authentication and authorization and the principle of least privilege, right? And moving on, we have the security assessment and testing. This domain revolves around evaluating and assessing the security of systems, networks, and applications, right? It includes vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, and security auditing, right? And then you also have the security operations as well, which involves the day-to-day task of activities required to maintain and monitor security controls. And it's like, for instance, like SIEM tools and things of this nature, right? And then this domain covers incident response, security monitoring, and disaster recovery planning, right? And moving forward, we have the security. The last but not least is, again, the software development security, right? And this domain basically focuses on integrating security into software development lifecycle, right? It involves secure coding practices, identifying and mitigating vulnerabilities in software, and ensuring the security of applications, right? The simplified definition should give you a basic understanding of each CISSP domain and the focus areas, right? So basically another type of trick that attack vectors we use is also password attacks, right? It's also an attempt to access password secured devices, systems, and networks or data. Some forms of password attacks are brute force, right, and rainbow table. And then you also have social engineering attacks, which you already talked about too as well. And physical attacks, like we talked about, you have like malicious USB cables and malicious flash drives and card cloning and skimming too as well. And also they have like another type of social engineering, which is, again, a little bit nuanced, is more adversarial artificial intelligence, right? It's a technique that manipulates artificial intelligence and machine learning technology to conduct attacks more efficiently. And it falls under both communication and network security and the identity and access management domains, right? And so this is something that's a little bit more nuanced. As I told you, like a lot of threat attackers, right? And so these guys, a lot of them, they're leveraging now artificial intelligence, right, to be able to attack your computer, right? And so it's something to definitely keep in mind, especially for the future, as it becomes easier to get access to the information and also streamline the information to make it faster for you to be able to hack into these systems, right? And so we also have like supply chain attacks, right? And so we also have, for instance, like, and this basically deals with like target systems, applications, hardware, and software to locate a vulnerability where malware can be deployed, right? Because every item sold undergoes a process that involves third parties, right? And this means that security breaches can occur at any time or any point during the supply chain. These attacks are costly because they can affect multiple organizations and individuals who work for them, right? Supply chain attacks can fall under several domains, including but not limited to, security and risk management and security architecture and engineering and so on and so forth, right? Then you also have the cryptographic attacks, right? This again deals with this affects forms of communication between a sender and intended recipient, right? Some forms of cryptographic attacks are birthday, collision, downgrade. Cryptographic attacks fall under the communication and network security domain, right? And another thing about cryptographic attacks is kind of a little bit alluded to is it's as an extension, with cryptocurrency. It happens all the time, where people either lose their wallet or they get it stolen or they get their seed phrase stolen because they, placed it somewhere in the cloud, which the cloud isn't safe. I would just never put and trust my seed phrase. I just don't put it online. You keep it offline. You can even maybe build a NAS for yourself, which is your own private cloud for yourself, right? You can build your own, right? And so, it's just, there's different workarounds and solutions to be able to store the cloud safely, but I just wouldn't trust even an encrypted cloud. I think Nord offers an encrypted cloud. I wouldn't trust it, right? Because anything can be hacked, as I previously stated in the previous first after hours that I did on cybersecurity, right? Anything can be hacked. So you want to basically keep that in mind for sure. And so you also have advanced persistent threats as well. So APTs, what they call them, they have significant expertise in organizations' networks without authorizations, right? And so they tend to research their targets really, really well. So this is like large corporations and government entities. And so, it's much easier for them they do it for a long period of time and for an extended period of time, and they do it sometimes undetected, right? Their intentions and motivations can include damaging critical infrastructure, such as a power grid or natural resources, and gaining access to intellectual property right? Such as trade secrets or patents, right? And so when you look at the insider threats, so, you know, you can have espionage, that goes on, and, basically, just to break down insider threats a bit. So it's when, people abuse their authority or authorize access to obtain data that may harm an organization, right? And yeah, it includes like sabotage, corruption, espionage, unauthorized data access or leaks, things of this nature. You have hacktivists too as well. These are doing things, people doing stuff for a political reason, and this includes like, propaganda, demonstrations, fame. I guess you guys know. I forgot the name of this big hacktivist group that they wear masks, and they expose a lot of things within the government and whatnot. I forgot their name, but you guys probably know who I'm talking about. But yeah, so these type of guys would be considered like hacktivists in a sense, right? And yeah, so what is a hacker? Basically, it's like any person who uses computers to gain access to computer systems or networks or data, right? And so yeah, that's basically what a hacker is. And yeah, there's new and unskilled threat actors have various goals, right? So there's unskilled hackers and there's also skilled hackers. So you could be unskilled and still be a hacker, especially in today's day and age with with all the things that are going on in regards to artificial intelligence, right? So it's not that hard to become a hacker nowadays, and so people are taking a lot of advantage of technology to basically make up for the lack of intellect or skills to be able to hack on their own or completely on their own. There's a lot of resources on the internet, right? We live in the information age, right? And the digital information age. So there's an overabundance of information on the internet now today, and it's making it even more streamlined with artificial intelligence and so on, right? But this concludes basically all the different ways in which systems can be hacked and a little bit of the foundational principles of cybersecurity. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, man. Stay tuned for the next after hours, and peace.